It's 5:03 here in San Francisco. We've got clear skies around the Bay Area this afternoon, and that's expected to continue into the evening. Checking traffic, it's moving well out of the city. The Golden Gate has moderate traffic, and the Bay Bridge is at the limit going into Oakland. The big news this afternoon, the third game of the World Series between the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland A's. That game at Candlestick Park will be starting in just a few minutes, so
it began with a low rumble, then a sharp jolt, then another, then another. For 15 interminable heart-pounding seconds, it kept building as the Earth tried to shake itself inside out. It was being measured at 7.1 on the Richter, and when the ground finally settled back into its primordial quiescence, the face of much of California had changed. While 99% of San Francisco's buildings were unscathed, there were areas of severe damage. The Marina District in North San Francisco was very hard hit. A section of the Bay Bridge, the major artery between San Francisco and Oakland, had collapsed. Almost a mile of the upper deck of the Nimitz Freeway in Oakland had collapsed onto the lower deck. 59 cars lay sandwiched between them. Oakland itself had some heavy damage. In the South Bay, parts of Los Gatos were hard hit. Further south, in the Santa Cruz Mountains, huge gashes had ruptured out of the earth near the epicenter. Highway 17, which runs through the mountains, had been cut up by huge landslides and cracks in the roadway. Further south, much of the historic Santa Cruz downtown mall lay in ruins. Many of the old brick buildings along nearby Watsonville's Main Street were destroyed. Back in San Francisco, a single fire now burned against the dark skyline. Dark because for the first time since 1906, the entire city had lost all electric power, and the darkness of the night was rapidly approaching.
It's going to be pretty rough. It's pretty widespread outage situation. We're even in the dark here in the office.
Customer service is emergency.
Okay, in your phone book, on B12, the B section, but on B12 it tells you how to turn off your gas valve.
Only if they have a gas leak, then we'll take that information.
Okay, I will report this and make sure we'll do as soon as we can. We've got a large number of circuits out.
As the earthquake hit, PG&E was serving over 4 million electric and almost 3.5 million gas customers from Bakersfield in the south to Eureka in the north. The quake, centered on the San Andreas Fault, severely affected over 6,000 square miles of that service territory. For electric customers, that effect was almost instantaneous. Moss Landing power plants sustained some damage and tripped off almost immediately. Its switchyard, which controlled transmission into the adjoining area, was demolished. Went down, a large portion of the Monterey, Santa Cruz area went dark with it. Metcalf Sub and San Mateo Sub, both major conduits for power from other substations, also were heavily damaged, cutting off most of the lower peninsula, although Metcalf still managed to feed most of San Jose. San Francisco, however, was left isolated, relying on its own generation. But the two power plants operating in San Francisco were also having major problems. The severe shaking caused Potrero Power Plant to trip off almost immediately. Soon, Hunters Point followed, leaving the city of San Francisco now completely without power. Local electric distribution lines were also hard hit. Lines broke or slapped together, arcing and shorting out transformers, causing extensive outages throughout wide sections of the North Bay, East Bay, and South Bay areas. When all the dust settled, a total of 1,408,000 electric customers, over a quarter of our customers, were suddenly left without power.
Street, East 12th Street and 52nd Avenue. Very strong gas odor.
Within seconds after the quake, Calls began to flood into local PG&E customer service offices throughout the quake-ravaged area. Many were calling to report gas leaks or the smell of gas.
Intermittent gas over the street, okay.
Gas servicemen were immediately dispatched to turn off the gas at those meters.
I'm going to have to shut your gas off. We'll get back to you when we can.
But many gas customers didn't wait. Almost everywhere the quake was felt, thousands of anxious residential and business customers were turning off their own gas at the meter. In the Great Quake of 1906, it was fire that caused more damage than the quake itself. Fire fueled by ruptured gas lines. This time, that didn't happen, in large part because we were ready for it. Experienced gas crews trained in earthquake emergency procedures immediately scrambled house to house, shutting off low-pressure gas valves. The high-pressure system under the streets was also immediately shut down in those first crucial minutes following the quake. All in all, within an hour after the quake, over 156,000 gas customers and almost 1,500,000 electric customers had lost service. But the response to stabilize the system and then restore that service was immediate. Within minutes, the company's Emergency Operations Center, or EOC, in downtown San Francisco was being set up, and within the hour was in full operation. Because of the unprecedented magnitude of the crisis, getting organized leadership in place and in communication as quickly as possible was essential. But the responsibility and authority for actually restoring service in any given area lies in that area, with region and division personnel. That response was also immediate.
Jumper burned open at Foothill and 40th, and also a wire down.
Local offices and service centers began coordinating damage reports and dispatching crews.
Okay, it looks like we got Providence Hospital in trouble up there, man.
Electric crews were soon in the streets, tackling the widespread distribution outages. Gas crews continued to respond to gas leak calls and shut down services as necessary. Many employees, unable to get to their normal offices, reported to the nearest office and volunteered to help.
I'm usually working in San Francisco, so I couldn't get to my office today, so I thought I'd stop in Oakland and see what I could do here.
I'm normally a power engineer. This is my first time on the phones ever.
And at the power plants and hard-hit substations, the response to get vital safety checks and then repairs underway was almost instantaneous.
There was crews all over. We were all trying to get the old stuff out of the way, taken apart, to get the new stuff in.
But Potrero Power Plant still had special problems. It needed steam to reheat the unit's feed water before it could bring Unit 3 back up. That help came from the Navy, specifically the USS Lang, then berthed at Treasure Island, halfway across the bay. When the crew aboard the Lang got the word that Potrero needed steam, they brought up their ship's own steam supply and sailed to Potrero at 17 knots.
We put over our steam line, tied into PG&E's riser there, and started providing 150-pound steam to the PG&E plant.
And local division and general construction crews, along with crews brought in from unaffected areas, worked around the clock to patch together the damaged distribution system. And block by block, area by area, customers were brought back online.
This service is back on. That one's back on. The three-pot bank at the end isn't quite on yet, but it will be in a minute.
48 hours after the earthquake hit, only about 20,000 out of the almost 1.5 million customers originally out were still left without power. Of some interest is the fact that the quake was barely felt at Diablo Canyon Power Plant, 150 miles south of the epicenter. At the time, Unit 1 was out for a scheduled refueling, but Unit 2 continued to operate at full power throughout the emergency, helping to anchor the southern part of the electric transmission system. Restoration of the devastated local gas distribution systems also began almost as soon as the ground had stopped shaking. In San Francisco's Marina District, the gas distribution system was hit hard. Crews like these, coming from Golden Gate region to the north, joined San Francisco, General Construction, and other crews from all around the system in the massive effort to get San Francisco gas service restored. In Santa Cruz, the restoration of gas service to the devastated downtown area was also underway. The PG&E office in Santa Cruz was in that devastated downtown area. Amid the rubble, it survived with relatively little damage, in great part due to the special earthquake modifications done over the past few years. And employees continued to work out of the office for several days, helping customers. But soon, they were moved to temporary quarters at the service center outside of town as the demolition of nearby buildings began. In hard-hit Watsonville and Los Gatos, crews and customer service personnel also worked around the clock out of temporary trailers.
Once the inspection comes in, we'll release it for the next business day.
Okay, fine.
I'm going to go to the end of the block, and I'm just going to come this way. Okay?
As the system stabilized, one of the company's greatest challenges now began, the process of relighting. 156,000 customers throughout the quake area had either been turned off or had turned off their own service. Each of these 156,000 services now had to be individually checked for leaks and turned back on, house by house by house.
We're going to verify that everything is okay at this individual residence and go ahead and light our pilots.
Local offices obviously couldn't handle the volume, so within hours, gas teams from around the system were coordinated and sent into the hardest hit areas.
There's a group of us, about 18 of us from Fresno, and we caravanned up.
It's 22 of us from Sacramento.
We also had help from Southern California Gas, from San Diego Gas and Electric, and from utilities in Utah, Nevada, and Washington State. On the evening of the 17th, 156,000 customers were out. By the 20th, that number was down to 98,000. And by the 26th, not counting San Francisco's Marina District, less than 1,000 remained. Earlier, it had been the Navy who had lent a helping hand. Now it was the Air Force's turn. At 4 a.m. on Sunday, October 22nd, 2 C-5A transport planes landed at Moffett Field. Each carried huge replacement breakers and other equipment from Westinghouse in Pittsburgh, bound for Moss Landing Switchyard and San Mateo Sub. Installation of that essential replacement equipment soon followed. But over those long nights and days, we were not only working hard to restore gas and electric service, we were also right there helping those communities in many other ways. In Santa Cruz, local PG&E employees visited a school on the first day it reopened to hand out candy-filled bags to kids who had missed Halloween. In Watsonville, crews distributed much-needed flashlights and battery lamps. In Oakland, food was delivered to victims made homeless by the Cypress Overpass disaster. In San Francisco, an emergency center was set up to help Marina residents and pass out blankets, insulation, and other necessities. And we also set up portable hot water showers for residents still without gas service.
I mean, I'm tired of the cold water. It shocks me at 6 o'clock in the morning. This is what we needed right here. Thank you.
The intense public interest in the quake, along with PG&E's vital role in ensuring public welfare and safety, turned the attention of the local, national, and international press on us around the clock.
Right now, we want to bring you the latest information on power and gas, something that a lot of people are still doing without. David Monfried joins us now from PG&E. What's the latest?
In San Francisco, we have about 8,000 customers out. Now,
Throughout that first week, over 3,400 media calls were handled 24 hours a day from the EOC, and many more were handled out of local offices.
With the light of day, we were able to more accurately survey the extent of the damage.
The human cost of the quake is, of course, incalculable. 60 lives were lost, and thousands were left homeless. The cost in dollars now exceeds $10 billion. PG&E's cost is estimated at about $100 million, mostly from damage sustained to the transmission and distribution systems. But there was about $5 million worth of damage also done to the general office complex in San Francisco. None of this, however, should have a major impact on the company's financial health. Within 2 weeks, the California Public Utilities Commission established a special rate account to help recover much of the cost of the damage not covered by insurance. Our gas and electric system are now pretty well back in full operation, but it will be a while before things get completely back to normal.
Now there's a lot of work to be done, and it's not going to be recognized as being as glamorous as what we've been through, but it's going to take time, and it's going to cost us some money, but it will restore our system back to normal.
The quake of '89 was one of the major events to happen in this area in a long time. And while some areas were very severely affected, most business and transportation was back up and running in a matter of hours or days. On Friday, October 27th, only 10 days after the quake, something happened which perhaps signaled the start of the return to normalcy. The delayed third game of the World Series between the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants. But the tradition of throwing out the first ball had new significance this time. It, or in this case, they, were thrown out by a group of people representing a few of the heroes of the quake of '89. Firemen, policemen, medical rescue teams, relief agencies, telephone and highway personnel, and of course, PG&E.
Pacific Gas and Electric Company gas serviceman Dave Lopez.
Our people are saying, it's our job. We just went about doing our job. And they really didn't recognize the heroic nature even of what they had done. It was a team effort, probably unparalleled in the utility industry of America.
But it was an effort that was not lost on all those who, in this crisis, so desperately counted on us to be there. We were. And when you come right down to it, that's what it was really all about.